Hello guys, and welcome to a brand new video from me, Pickles Parker Reviews. Now today I will be reviewing the 10th and final episode of Doctor Who Series 11, titled The Battle of Ranskoor of Kolos. Now Series 11 has been building up for absolutely months and months and months, ever since Jodie Whittaker was announced as the first female Doctor all the way back in July 2017. Now, it feels like it's gone by this quick, but now it's time to review the finale of this series that we've all been waiting for so long. Did it deliver, or did it just feel incredibly underwhelming? Now, the opening of this story I thought was very intriguing because all the trailers all talked about this battle. We'd obviously seen the character Beltraki and all this stuff. But the opening was very odd in the sense that we had all these Ux people, well, not all of these Ux people, just the two, and they were like trying to master these skills, and it was all a bit like, it was almost a bit like unexpected. It's not what you were expecting to see, because obviously we didn't know who the Ux were, so yeah, it was all a bit odd, but I thought it was quite an intriguing opening. And then obviously you see that mysterious figure come down there. It skips so many thousand years to when they're in the TARDIS. His characters were fairly underused. I kind of felt they were an interesting concept. These beings that can just create whatever they want, just with their minds. Various things have been done with that throughout all of media. But it was an interesting thing to do. I don't know if they were supposed to be one of the creators of some planets. I don't know. Was that even mentioned? Probably not. I probably just made that up. But I kind of maybe thought that they were one of the first species in the universe or something. I don't know where I got that from. That may have not been in the episode. That may be something I just kind of presumed. But yeah, that would be quite interesting if they were like that. Obviously, there's only two of them. Don't know why. But I just think their powers, their abilities could have been very utilised in a different story to, greater effect. Them being in the story just kind of felt almost like they just really didn't need to be in the story. I think they really could have had a story to themselves and really filled it. I can't see that we're ever going to see the Ux again. So it just almost felt a bit, they were underused. They have cool powers, they're like, with the rocks. I don't even think they did that whole thing. I don't know why I'm doing that, but they had some cool abilities, but I just didn't really think they were used in the story that much. So were they a bit of a waste? Yes, I think they could have saved them for another story potentially, because I don't even really know what they use their powers for. It's just like, oh yeah, do this weird thing, and they just do it. You don't really know what it is because you don't understand what the Doctor's trying to get them to do. It's like, oh yeah, use your powers to get the planets back. But really, they could have just saved them for another episode. But opening is intriguing. It's a virtual expectation. It's not what you're expecting. But as soon as it's over, you're back to the usual TARDIS stuff. I just want to get this out of the way like I usually do in most reviews, because there's a fair bit to talk about. The direction and music. Let's talk about the direction by Jamie Childs. He has been the standout director for this series. This series just generally looks like a very good visual standpoint. It's definitely the best looking Doctor Who has ever looked, in my opinion. But I say his direction in particular, there's some really nice shots and stuff. It just generally is done really well. There's nice use of colours and things. I just think it looks very nice, the barren landscapes and things. It's all just shot really well. Jamie Childs, he's been a real breakout director, I think, in this series. Obviously, I do believe he directed the first clip of Jodie Whittaker walking through the forest, but he has returned for the series, and I think he's just shown his class more and more. I can't wait to see him more in the future. Jamie Childs, his visual style is certainly something I like. Music by Segun Akinola. There are some nice little cues in this. There's nothing standout, but there were some nice original pieces, some nice original motifs calling back from the woman who fell to Earth, really. But there was nothing too special. But his music overall, I think, has been fairly good. I would say I do kind of prefer Marigold's, just because obviously Marigold did more. You can't really compare Segun Akinola's music to Marigold's, just because his tracks, I suppose, were more memorable. because Segun Akinola's is more understated. But I can't say that Segun Akinola's music doesn't suit the story. It certainly does. But you just don't get those tunes where you hear them and you're just like, yes, I need to listen to that specific track. You don't quite get that, it's all just, yeah, that's a really nice bit of music, but it all kind of blends into one, I suppose. Whereas with Marigold, is that you could pick out specific tracks. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's up to you. It can be perceived in both ways. But his music was a bit more memorable. Segun Akinola's I still think is good. In this story, it wasn't nothing special, but it was still enjoyable to listen to. I thought this was a fairly intriguing setup for the story. Obviously, it's like 9 separate distress calls, all from the same part of the planet. I thought that could have been done a bit more with. I wasn't exactly sure what that actually had to do with the story. I suppose it was just kind of like trying to say that there's been a lot of distress calls from here, but I thought they could have done more of that, seeing as it's 9 separate different distress calls, 9 different episodes before this. They really could have done a bit more with that. I thought that was supposed to be something. Perhaps it was just a coincidence, but no, they really could have done something more with that. The Captain with No Memory thing as well with whole Potraki, that was quite unnerving actually, when it was like he couldn't even remember his own name. That was quite nice, but maybe the basic setup isn't what this story's about. Basically the synopsis, they didn't give out any previews or anything because they really wanted you to go into it blind. I don't know why. It's not like if it was the New Year special, I could understand it. This wasn't too much like that, but I think therefore the synopsis they gave wasn't particularly descriptive of the general episode itself. I suppose you could say the same about It Takes You Away, but I just thought the basic setup that the synopsis gave, it wasn't really like in this story, I suppose, apart from like the first 10 minutes. After that it just takes a different turn, and that's not the mission. So it was interesting, but it's not really what the story's about, I suppose. Oh, the big thing for this episode, I suppose, was the Doctor. I know that voice. It was Tim Shaw. Yep, Tim Shaw from the finale. He is back. Everyone saw that from a mile away, really. It's no big shock. Everyone called it. Therefore, I don't know why they tried to play it as a surprise. It was so obvious he was coming back. And Tim Shaw was a decent villain. He's probably been the best this series, but saying that, you don't have to be that good to be the best out of the villains in this series. So if you're going to bring one back, yeah, it was going to be him. But I don't think he was a strong enough villain to be the big bad of this series particularly, and that's mainly because you haven't exactly felt his presence or his toll on these characters throughout the series. They tend to get a passing mention in the Ghost Monument, but apart from that, they haven't really been mentioned. Therefore, it's almost like Tim Shaw, he hasn't really had an effect on them, and I think he's a decent villain, and I suppose particularly in this episode, I think in his scenes with Jodie Whittaker specifically, you do kind of see that perhaps he does have a bit of a presence with her Doctor, with their confrontation and their standoffish. I thought he was quite good in there, so perhaps he could have had a future. I think it was right to dispose of him after this episode, but I definitely think that perhaps he was decent to bring back for another episode. Was this the right one? I don't know. He all felt very, very forced. He didn't always feel like he suited the whole false god role that they kind of gave him. I don't think he particularly suited the setting. But I think he was okay, but I think with there being no really half decent villains, apart from probably Tim Shaw, who's been alright this series, you really wanted something to just kind of be really good in the finale, and he just wasn't that, I suppose. So I think he had. If you're going to bring anyone back, it would be him. So now talking about the supporting cast a bit, let's talk about Mark Addy as Potraki. He was really good. I thought slightly underused. I thought he played, the scared and the unnerving and, quite upsetting side of, losing his memory, being this captain. I thought he played it really well. I thought he was underused, and I suppose because you've got like this TARDIS team, and as soon as Tim Shaw's introduced, it's almost all kind of calling back to things in The Woman Who Fell to Earth. So it's kind of like the supporting cast, Portraki and the two Ucks are kind of left behind when they really could have been in it more if this was a different story. So I suppose he was underused, but I thought Mark Addy gave a good performance. Talk about Andinio and Delve, played by Phyllis Logan and Purcell Ascot. They were alright as the Ucks. I thought they could have been better, but I suppose for how little the Ucks were in this episode, they did alright really. They could have been used more, as I've said before. The Ucks were kind of cool, but their performance was what made the Ucks special. Talk about the TARDIS team, and starting with the most interesting of the TARDIS team throughout the series and in this episode, let's talk about Graham Bradley Walsh. Now Graham goes through quite a transformation in this episode, because he says to the Doctor, thanks for everything, but if I see Tim Shaw, I'm gonna kill him. I really liked this because, it just shows a different side to Bradley Walsh's loving character. But I think it also makes you think, it makes him feel quite relatable, because you kind of think, yeah, despite the fact of the Doctor, saying, you're just as bad as Tim Shaw. Is he? No, he's not. He is bad, but is he as bad as Tim Shaw, who's done all this to all these people? No, he's not. But, I think despite how bad it would be to kill him and how wrong it would be, if he took away your dead relative, you would want to kill him, and I thought that gave a certain aspect of relatability to Graham's character. Could it have been handled better? Yes. Could have we saw almost shades of this throughout the series? Yes, we should have. Was it right because he just got over his grief in It Takes You Away and now it's back again? Yeah, that was kind of oddly placed, but had some nice lines as well, like when he said yippee-ki-yay robots. That was quite nice. And we had a few nice lines in there. Obviously his character was mainly focused on this thing, but I thought he was fairly strong in this episode, and I thought it was good. Ryan and Yaz don't have too much to do in this episode. Ryan has more to do because he's with Graham and they have a few nice interactions. Yaz basically has nothing to do. She has a nice little conversation with Portraki, but that's really cut short as soon as the Doctor comes in, and then she's immediately just used as like a board that the Doctor can just throw just random stuff on to her, like she needs to say, and Yaz is just there to just listen. So yeah, she kind of returns to that. She's alright, but definitely in this series she hasn't had much to do, and she doesn't in here. Before I talk about the 13th Doctor, I'd just like to talk about, I said in the preview that I would have liked a connection to Desolation, to really link this to the Ghost Monument. I thought Rico worked. Ranskoor of Kolos could have been, Desolation. It wasn't, but there were still things there that I just thought, well, why are they even there? The sniper bots were literally the same sniper bots as in the Ghost Monument. So it's like, why wouldn't you take that chance to just make a little reference in there that it's Desolation, and then that would have felt even more like a bit of a finale than it already was. I would really like that connection, because I think the theory that, people like Ace Creeper brought up with that I mentioned in my preview, that is such a good theory, and when you listen to it you think, how can they not do this? And they obviously didn't. I think I would have made this episode 10 times better. I really think it would have been really nice to just have that little time there. 13th Doctor then, Jodie Whittaker. She's alright, but she's just very inconsistent in this episode. You still have the same problems where she's just being kind of too nicey, too jokey in serious situations. And even in serious situations, she just flicks. There's a really nice confrontational scene where she's confronting Andinio and she's being really stern and imposing. And you think, yes, this is what I've been missing from this Doctor all series. Please, can we just have some of this? Because I've kind of been doubting whether Jodie Whittaker can actually pull off this imposing Doctor. The Doctor's like Matt Smith, I really thought he had a talent for just, switching and being that really authoritative, imposing, kind of darker Doctor. when confronting certain villains. You know, I think of the Colonel Runaway scene in A Good Man Goes to War. It's just like, God, that right there. And she almost has a bit like that when she's confronting the Ux, and then she instantly just flicks out, oh, are you the Ux? Oh, I love the Ux. Brilliant people, the Ux. It's just like, weren't you just confronting them for being villains, you know? You know, why do you flick like that? It's almost a bit like, obviously, a lesser extent. In this case, the Frog, when she instantly flicks to going to her friend. It's a bit more in this case because she's actually perceiving the Ux to be a threat. And she has a nice confrontational bit. It might be one of my favourite scenes of this episode, maybe if not my favourite, when she's confronting Tim Shaw. I thought she did do the imposing stuff quite well in that. But it's just like, I gave her the facepalm when she flicked in that Ugg scene. To being like that, it's just like, you were going so well. Why did you just have to go and do this? But, yeah, she also has a really inconsistency with weapons. She's saying to Graham how if he kills him, you know, I can't travel with you. And then she just said, oh yeah, have these guns. And then when Ryan says, what happens? And she's just like, oh, I change morals all the time, despite the fact she's been having a go at characters for using guns. She had a go at that Donald Trump guy, Robertson, in Arachnids in the UK, that was his name, you know, for killing the spider with a gun. You know, she keeps on having a go at these characters, but then when push comes to shove, she can use weapons. And I think the way it was played, it was almost like, yes, we know, but we're doing it anyway. We know this completely makes no sense, but we're doing it anyway. The fact that it mentioned it annoys me more. It's not like they just accidentally done it. They knew it, but they continued to do it anyway. So that was really annoying. But she's been good, and she's good in parts in this episode. And in the final speech, I thought that was quite nice. But you know, I just wanted more. You know, more consistency with her doctor. I'm sure his plan was awful, if I'm being honest. The planets I really didn't see the point of, although that was a nice image in those jars. There really wasn't much to it. What he did with these and what he was going to do, I don't know. You know, and when the doctor's like, oh my god, that's impossible. It's like, yeah, well, the Daleks did steal like loads and loads of planets in the series 4 finale. Is it that impossible? But yeah, it was an awful plan. I thought it really lacked the reality of the plan, because it shows him zapping Earth, but you never see anyone going or down on Earth, or you know, you don't even get a glimpse of Yaz's family looking out the window like you saw with Sylvia and Thingy, for example, in The End of Time and Stolen Earth, where you look outside. You get none of that. So it was really, it could have just been any planet, and it don't matter, you just see the Earth going red, and then it's not. But did that actually do anything? Because surely it going red must have done something to the Earth, but I doubt you're going to see any repercussions of that. It feels that they're trying to tie this series in a nice little bow, and it won't necessarily be referenced that much again, New Year special onwards, so I doubt you'll even find the repercussions of that, just by the fact they're going to be on Earth in the New Year special. But it was an awful plan, it wasn't executed that well. I didn't really see what was it. Almost reminded me of, I hate to bring it up, Fan Stick, where, you know, oh Jesus, Doctor Doom is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna burn your world, and it just goes straight through that thing where they're on the planet where they got their powers, but you don't really see the thing of that, so it just could have been any planet. It really reminded me of that moment, I have to admit. So yeah, I didn't think his plan was that good. Overall, this episode is okay. It's definitely not bad, and it has its moments. Tim Shaw was actually fairly well utilised as a character. I don't know if it was the right story for him, but him coming back wasn't as nearly as bad as I thought it would be. Graham's story is fairly well executed, but again, you know, it could have been better. Yaz and Ryan again for like spare parts. You know, the side characters are wasted, and the Ux really could have been more in this story. The 13th Doctor's fairly inconsistent, and that's another thing annoying, a problem that's been plaguing all this series. It was a decent episode, but it just felt like it could have been slipped anywhere in the series. It didn't feel like a finale, and I thought they really need to do that, you know. Obviously, I think it was a mistake not having an arc in this series. Everyone says that it would be nice to not have an arc, but I suppose you only know how much you miss something where it's gone, in the sense that you don't really realise how much you enjoy an arc until there isn't an arc there. I suppose it was a very heavy blow, in particular the finale, because they should have at least had this a two-parter, I think, to really build it up. And that just never happened. It didn't feel like the finale. The stakes were sort of higher, but you didn't get that thing where it was like all destruction. I just think it might be the worst finale. I think in terms of, wrapping things up, culminating a series. Actually, no, Hellbent so bad. But yeah, it's not great as a finale, but it's decent as an episode. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So thank you guys for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and drop a sub and hit that notification bell. That's all my reviews for Series 11 done, so I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be rounding it out with a Series 11 overview, so stay tuned for that. But for these reviews and these previews, I hope you enjoyed doing this over this 10-week period. I certainly have enjoyed it and look forward to various other bits of content in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, bye.